Welcome back to Sims Complete. I'm your host, Matt Sims, alongside Phil Sims on the Believe Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. Big guy, we just got done with round one. We continue the draft here later tonight. But hey, your review here so far early on through round one of the NFL draft there in Pittsburgh.
Oh, well, I think overall, I liked everything about it. I liked the pace of it. They got him out there. Maybe, I hate to say this, maybe they got him out there too quick. I need a little more time to absorb. Why'd you pick him? I was up with your brother, Christopher.
Yeah.
So, some of the, but, when you really look at it, I just thought it was handled in a lot of aspects very good. I thought all the teams, you can't really sit here, at least I can't right now, and rip a team because they had a chance and, missed this guy. Well, a lot of smart people sitting in those rooms.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I kind of believe them. Hey, I'm the guy that can wait and see how the season goes, then make my assessment. So
exactly right.
Yeah, it was a couple things, I guess. The defensive players, the tackles in the draft. How many tackles went last night? Did you know? You write it down?
Yeah, let me double check here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 offensive tackles going in the first round here tonight.
And you know what? Those were the 6 guys that I studied and watched, and I remember going, God, I think they're all can be right tackle, left tackle, guard, whatever they want.
Right.
I was really
and that's a good point, big guy, right? Is that like some of the tackles that did go, part of the reason why I think they went earlier than maybe some other players is the fact that they do see the ability for them to play the tackle position or the guard position. I know that's definitely something people have discussed with Spencer Fano, right? The young man out of Utah going to Cleveland. Really good pick by the Cleveland Browns because a lot of people do believe that he has the athletic ability to be a tackle, to be a guard. At worst case scenario, he's a productive offensive football player on the O-line.
Yeah, when you do talk about the linemen, well, I'm not going to dive into it too much, but, I'd like to say he's a tackle and be really strong about it. You really believe it. But,
right.
If it doesn't work, they'll put him at guard.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody that's not able or might go down to a guard? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the Giants – I think they got a guy that's going to stay at tackle. So,
let's do it. Let's talk about the New York Giants, right? And let's make no bones about it, right? We're Giants fans, and that's what we're going to discuss and break down here. Of course, there's been some mixed reactions from Giants fans, of course, and I think right now, just hey, about what? What do you mean about what? They just want to complain. They've been hanging out with too many of their Jets friends, so that's all they know right now. But I think. Of course, a lot of people were hoping that it would have been Caleb Downs, right, at the number 5 pick, especially when the Titans went with Carnell Tate. Caleb Downs is still available. I'm shocked, honestly, that the Titans went with Carnell Tate over Arvell Reese. And I think for the Giants, it was just too obvious for them to say, we can't pass up a guy like Arvell Reese, and especially, too, with his ability to play multiple positions moving forward, to develop more into a defensive pass rusher. But ultimately, his speed, his length, and his ability to just make big-time plays at that linebacker position and potentially as a rush end. I think the Giants hit an absolute home run with pick number 5 and Arvell Reese, big guy. What do you think on that?
Oh, I do too. I kept always wondering, do we, as the old Kirk Signetti would say, and I've said this many times, he said to me, hey, Sims, I'm about production, not potential.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was in my head the whole time I was studying a lot of guys this year. And Arvell Reese would be one. Okay. Oh, we're going to move him. What's he going to do? Where's he going to play? And then I think before the draft, I just went, okay, yes, he is such a good athlete. He's going to grow into be the right kind of man you want on the football field. He's fast. He's big. And you just go, I got it. But, before the draft, I didn't think it would be that for the Giants.
Right.
But it turned out, and I thought the 2 picks were really good, and they got to sit there and think that we got 2 franchise players that could be there 8 or 10 years.
Right.
So, happy with the Giants about what they did. I'm happy for the Jets. I thought it worked out okay for them too.
Yeah. So, let's just stick with the G-men for right now, right? As far as just Arvell Reese goes, you add first of all, as we were going into the discussion of just where we're ranking players, Arvell Reese was always, I feel like, hands down, no pun intended, ahead of Caleb Downs as far as his overall value to a football team.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the debate, how effective can a safety be? All that. I also think the fact that the New York Giants, right? Hey, they paid Paulson Adebo, right? They paid Javon Holland, and they're not going to load up in that room right now, considering what they have. And also just the fact that, hey, Bobby Okereke was released earlier this year, right? Dexter Lawrence is now gone. Right. So we got to be thinking that interior part of the defense, yes, the safety position is important, no doubt about it, but getting a little bit more speed, athleticism, and just a guy that can do a little of everything. You know, Arvell Reese at 6'4", 241, 4'4" in the 40. Gosh. I mean, you know, he's good against the run. He's tough. He's got great reaction. Again, a versatile football player that can cover a ton of ground, whether it's the run or the pass. So this is a great start to the Harbaugh-Shane relationship as far as evaluating football players. And listen, I love Caleb Downs, and I know that he's in the division and all that. But, man, the New York Giants, I think, just got a little bit more scary, right, with their front seven, right? Even though Sexy Dexy's leaving, right? I still think that we got a lot of good things from Darius Alexander, the young man who's going into his second year in that interior part of the defense. He's got a lot of potential ahead of him. Yeah. Now with Arvell Reese, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, pretty good. So I like the emphasis of just bolstering that front seven again for them as a football team and really establishing that toughness that John Harbaugh really finds most important to the development of his team moving forward.
Well, a couple things, you know, it's not talked about on TV because it's really something we can't identify, whatever.
Yeah.
But who are going to be the guys on the defensive side? Well, I know Brian Burns is going to be one. Well, they're just the ringleader.
Right.
And is Arvell Reese that guy? I mean, is he John Harbaugh going, man, I got Ray Lewis again maybe there as far as attitude goes or something.
Right.
And I think that's really, really big time. Last year, watching Giant games, I mean, hell, in between plays, everybody just standing there. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, come on. And, you know, one thing you can do on defense, you can be emotional.
Yep.
And, you know, offense, well, I got to do everything perfect for this damn play to work, but not on the defensive side. So, you know, and I thought Arvell Reese, I had it in my mind, he was going to go to the Jets and the Giants were going to get, you know, somebody else in that spot. So, so that's the first thing that jumps out to me. And two, with Caleb Downs, probably all day long, fans, if they're watching TV and watching the build up to the draft, Nick Saban came on and a couple shows. I saw him on a couple. You know what he said?
Right.
He's the best defensive back I've ever coached in my life.
Right.
Now, you know, Nick Saban throws out those kind of opinions about once every 30 years.
Right.
And when he said that, I went, wow, that is some endorsement.
Yeah.
He had. And, you know, when you watch him play and all that, there are a lot of special plays. So the NFL, just listen to you talk about Arvell Reese. The Giants get the right tackle, who I loved. You know, my first thought there is, well, hell, everybody plays University of Miami offensive line. You're going to the NFL because the offense they run, that damn coach, man, we know what he's going to do. He wants big, physical, tough guys. And honestly, watching it, you go, hell, all five of them look like they're going to be big-time pros.
Right.
But it's, Matt, you talk about all these numbers and that. It's almost scary. We get guys like Arvell Reese running that fast, being that big, and knowing he's going to get bigger because his frame, I was sitting around a bunch of people with your brother, and when he walked out, I said, holy Christ, look at his shoulders.
Yeah.
And you could have set a person on each one. So, you know, I kind of thought about that, just where it's gone, the league, professional football. It's bigger, faster, stronger. Man, is it this year, in my mind, is bigger than ever.
Yeah.
We talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And now let's go to the number 10 pick, right, for the New York Giants. And this is Francis Mauigoa, right, out of Miami, the right tackle. And listen, this guy, 6'5", 330 pounds. It just says like when you see him, you're just like, hey, that's an offensive lineman, man, you know, and he's got the attitude and the toughness to go with it. Coming out of Miami with a Mario Cristobal mentality. Of course, Mario Cristobal, he's not playing anybody soft on that offensive line there,
Oh,
right?
God,
Because
no.
that's just not how Mario Cristobal is. Even if a reporter asks him the wrong question, it seems like he's ready to fight, right? So we know that Francis Mauigoa is very comfortable in conflict-like situations like that. Really good in pass protection, shows some great athleticism and lateral movement, right? And I think that's something that's really impressive for the fact of like he is a big, strong guy, right? As far as that goes with his build, right? He's a stocky, low center of gravity, strong-legged guy, but the movement with his legs, especially in pass protection, shows great athleticism. The run blocking is like a next level or a next ring higher, right? As far as his ability, when he gets hands on people, he can absolutely drive them back and push them around and dominate. And when he locks on, these guys aren't getting away from him consistently. There's a reason why Carson Beck and Fletcher, right, the running back there in Miami, were so successful this past season, right, in that Shannon Dawson offense. It's because Francis Mauigoa was absolutely just lighting it up on that right tackle spot.
Yeah.
And one example I think that really speaks to just how much they believed in him as a football player at Miami. Hey, critical situation at the end of the game against Ohio State. It's essentially, I want to say, like a second or third and goal there from the 2 or 3 yard line. Where do they run that football? Right behind Francis Mauigoa, right? So they really took all the guesswork out of it and just said, hey, this is the guy that we're going to rely on. When we need tough yards, we're running behind him. And he really never disappointed. Great awareness, toughness, and just another guy now to add to the depth of that position, right? And that group. And also, like we mentioned earlier, a guy that can play guard or tackle, big guy. So that's always good. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's nice. I mean, come on, these NFL O-lines, they're taking beatings. Everybody's falling all over the place. Sometimes they get hurt. It's the knee, and it's really amazing. I left right before the draft was over, and I heard him talking about, I think it was Pat Kerwin and them were interviewing him.
Yeah.
And he basically, his personality was really, really cool, loose, whatever. He goes, Jackson Dart. He started talking about Jackson Dart. Nobody's going to hit Jackson Dart. Rah, rah, and I just laughing. Man, this guy, just the way he said it, I know he believes it. He can't wait for the challenge. And that challenge is going to be rough. There's no doubt about that. But, yeah, I watched him a lot. And, of course, I think the college championship game was on TV yesterday morning. I started watching it, and I remember a couple of days I said, damn, look at their line.
Right.
Just so, yeah, but everything you said is all true. I think it was, as far as the Giants, I guarantee you when the first round was over, they all shake hands after their pick. Man, they were doing some high-fiving.
Yeah.
Because they had to be happy. I don't know if it went the way they actually wanted. I don't care. What happened to them is going to turn out to be, I think, really, really good. So,
agree.
Fans, don't complain. It's been a tremendous offseason so far.
Yeah.
We got a quarterback coming back in his second year. Well, he's going to be a little sharper and different than he was his rookie year.
Yeah.
So,
And there's still a ton of high-quality football players right now. The Giants had the 5th pick here in the second round to start the day, right? And then they had the 5th pick in the 4th. They had the 5th pick in the 5th, right? So it's like they're in the mix now to adding tremendous depth to this roster, right, through this draft class. And there still are a ton of really talented football players that are still left on the board through all positions, right? So if we were thinking about the Giants in particular, right? So they solved the linebacker D end, right? They checked that box, right? With Arvell Reese. They checked the box with offensive tackle, offensive lineman, right? With Francis Mauigoa.
What's
of
next?
course, they can double down, right? And continue to add depth to that front, right? On both sides of the football if they want, because there's still some great interior offensive linemen available. But if they want to go in that cornerback route or the defensive tackle route, which I think is probably the one that makes the most sense. Hey, at pick number 5 here on night 2 in the second round, if Caden McDonald is still available,
wow,
that's where I get really excited. That's where I'm saying, go get Caden McDonald. Now you got, right, the big guy in the middle of the defense with Darius Alexander, right, with Chauncey Golston, who did some good things as well last year.
Athletic.
With the rest of the crew, this very porous run defense has a little bit of a different attitude and a different look to it with an anchor like that in the middle.
I don't have it with me, my players and where I ranked them and all that stuff. Matt, they need a wide receiver really bad.
Yeah.
And so I that's why I'm saying right off the top of my head, I can't think. I know Branch from Georgia's out there.
So Denzel Boston would probably be the highest ranked guy still available out of Washington. Right?
Yeah.
Another guy, right, that would be high on that list would be Zachariah Branch, Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee, Jeremy Bernard as well, right? So there's a few guys to kind of name off the list there. So that's where I say if at 5, I think to me it's Boston or it's Caden McDonald, right? That's kind of like the direction I think I would like to go into for the New York Giants.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I know it's kind of tough. You need the receiver. I look at it and just feel like they need that more than they do anything.
Right.
But, as I always said, I said it last night, or I don't know who I was talking to. It's okay. Add on, baby. Oh, this far that the defense has got a chance to be really good. Well, if the guy's there, like you said, take him.
Right.
Just give it more depth and don't worry about it. It's kind of it used to be that way with the Giants, and so many years have passed, and it's kind of changed a little bit where it's always like a single guy. Oh, okay, we did that. Oh, we got hit. Now just get players, get football players, or don't be afraid of. You don't need one of everything. There's always a weak spot on your team. Let's say the wide receiver position is weak. Well, okay, we got a pretty good offensive line. We got guys that can run it. We got a quarterback that can run it. That's going to help them.
Yep.
Well, they're going to be a little more productive than people probably give it credit for.
Right.
Yeah. It's
and the other need I would say is probably cornerback position. And there's still a ton of corners that have first round grades. Some of those guys that have a first round grade that I would suspect, right, that are still available with that first pick for the New York Giants in the second round. Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee, Avion Terrell out of Clemson, Colton Hood, another Tennessee Volunteer, Brandon Ceci, the long corner out of South Carolina, and Keontae Scott, good old fashioned tough guy out of Miami. So it's another group that still has first round graded level football players available for the Giants here early on the second round. So a few teams here early on the second round, man, they can go in a few different directions. And that's what's exciting. You got the Niners, the Cardinals, the Bills, the Raiders, and then the Giants, and then the Texans after that. So that's an interesting, group of teams right there that really can kind of go in any direction. But yeah, Giants definitely have a lot of really high quality football players still left on the board for them to select here.
Yeah, a couple things I want to ask you, but I wonder the 49ers, they didn't take anybody, right?
No, they had no first round pick in last night.
So that means somebody got picked by them or in front of them or whatever, and they lost that. So they said, to hell with it. Let's just wait till tomorrow night. And my first thought is a running back. I mean,
for who you're talking about?
The 49ers.
Right. Okay.
Jadarian Price. Oh my gosh. Would he fit in there?
Well, remember, right? Because I think you were on the car ride home actually from Christopher's house actually at this moment.
Oh.
But Jadarian Price was picked by the Seattle Seahawks. So he was number 32 in the last pick, and kind of got lost in the fray of all the other hype. But yeah, he's off the board. The second best running back in the class behind Jeremiah Love, his teammate. So now you got a different group of running backs that are still available. And really, I'm kind of curious to see where that goes for the running back position now, because you got guys like Mike Washington, Nick Singleton, Emmett Johnson, Damon Claiborne. I wouldn't be shocked if the rest of the running backs have to wait a little bit longer before their names get called, just because there's a little bit more depth at some of these other positions that I think teams can really make more of an impact of their football team early on in the second round here.
When do the Jets go in this round? I didn't write it down. So
yeah, hold on. I'll tell you in just a second here. So the New York Jets, they are going to be picking number 12 here in the second round, the 12th pick, and which is a great segue to it too, big guy. Thank you. Yeah, so let's talk about the Jets. They draft David Bailey with their first pick at number 2. Yep. Your reaction to David Bailey in the New York Jets pick?
Well, I think I was standing on the soapbox going, I'm thinking if he's not picked in the first, I thought that maybe he would follow the Giants.
Okay.
David Bailey. But right. I was definitely in favor of him being taken for the Jets over Reese.
Okay.
And I stayed that way the whole time. I never listened to anybody that changed my mind. Yeah. And, again, those sacks and just how they looked and what some other plays look like, I go, he really looks like almost a completely finished pass rusher for the NFL.
Yeah, well said.
And, and of course, everybody kind of says that. And, in Reese, they talk about, well, he's going to have to learn and this and that, which is fine.
Right.
He's special. He's a special athlete. So when somebody says, do this, he goes, you mean this? And they go, yeah, just like that. That's good. He's one of those.
Right.
He showed once, he's got it. Go ahead. What was the move of the night? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's Ty Simpson, right? The Los Angeles Rams, right, at pick number 13,
right,
make the decision to move forward with their quarterback position with an aging Matt Stafford, reigning MVP of the league, and they get Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, at number 13. A lot has been made a little bit about the post-draft press conference, right, where Snead and McVay are up there, and it does seem like McVay maybe wasn't ecstatic about the pick or the selection, but either way, they get the second best quarterback in this year's draft class, and a guy that really does play eerily similar to the star that they have right now in Matt Stafford.
Bingo. Yeah. How many times? And look, and before the draft, they come on and go, Ty Simpson's going to go, and he's going to go higher than you think. Oh, right. Well, you figured that out? No, they were told.
That's right.
Probably Les Snead or who knows what leaked it to him. And now everybody's, whatever. Oh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, listen, he was there in Pittsburgh, so that means something too.
Well, you knew that did it. Yes.
I mean, he knew more teams than we were maybe putting out there liked or had the possibility of him being a first round quarterback. So he was there in person. Then, of course, when they start the show, boasting about that on their soapbox, then it was kind of like, okay, something's in play here. Who is it? That's the big question. And of course, when the Rams selected, it was kind of like, yep, makes sense. Makes total sense for this franchise.
One, we talked about it, and here are a couple things.
Yeah.
Is one, he is the way he plays and who he is as a quarterback is perfect for the Rams.
It is.
Play action, deep drops, time to throw. He's mobile, and he's really mobile. So that deep drop, and I always say this, it spreads everybody out for you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the front, so it's easier to move into and stuff like
that. Very good at making free runners miss. Very good at setting up, redirecting, and throwing accurately. Really, really good pocket movement. Tough as hell, too, And again, it's like, I'm not talking about Matt Stafford. And I'm talking about Ty Simpson, but that's again like very similar traits and style of play that you see. And yes, a small sample size. And I understand that conversation too. I get it. 1 year starter, all that. Totally with it. Being new to this evaluation and all that. I would say the only difference is that you see just more well-rounded quarterback play pre-snap, post-snap, and just the whole thing more consistently than, let's say, an Anthony Richardson who had that same limited sample size and what we see on film. A lot of potential for Anthony Richardson, and there's no doubt it flashed. But for Ty Simpson, there's potential, and then there's the reality of the film matching that potential very consistently, right?
Yeah. Think of it this way, too. First off, Les Snead and McVay, they both looked unhappy. So I don't know. Maybe it was really, I felt it was uncomfortable for both or whatever. So,
yeah, well, I kind of tend to think that maybe they had a little bit of a, hey,
sure.
we're a year away from winning a Super Bowl. Maybe we could have, I'm just saying these are possible discussions that were taking place, right?
Well, for everybody out there, just take it this way too.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when Matt Stafford has that 2-week injury, which I'm going to say unless, he fights through injuries that maybe he won't have to fight through now for the first year or two, whatever.
Right.
But when you bring in the next quarterback, he's not Matt Stafford. but he has all the skill that you need. That, I even, I don't mean to get always upset about what I hear on TV, but somebody goes, well, his arm's not that strong. What the hell are you looking at? I mean, he rips it. He throws.
It was the same person that said that Bo Nix doesn't have a strong arm, so don't worry about it. They just don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. That's just the sound bite that they're buying into.
But you know what? He still wasn't drafted ahead of Mendoza. That was the argument. Oh, he's number one, and Mendoza's too.
Well, I mean, here we are. We're talking about the first round draft. We haven't even mentioned the first pick because it's been written in stone since January. So it's a strange year that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was. Listen, it caught everybody by surprise. It wasn't surprising in the fact that he was there. So right away, when I heard he was there, I said, "Oh my gosh, he knows." Somebody's already told him. And you brought up something pretty good, that the fact that maybe there was more than just one team, and maybe the Rams said, "Hell, we got to take him now because somebody else behind us is going to take him."
Yeah,
I really hadn't thought who. Everybody kind of said maybe Arizona would try to move somewhere to pick him up and things like that. But
yeah. And hey, I mean, people were questioning the Green Bay Packers drafting Jordan Love when they did, especially with Aaron Rodgers and the need for more things, right, within the football team and all that. You do have to kind of play that game of like the right now towards like, hey, we got to keep in mind big picture, protecting our football team, protecting a Super Bowl roster right now with a great backup potentially, right? So that's awesome, I think, for them moving forward. Whatever McVay's hesitations are, I think once he sees him in practice, he's going to change his mind real quick. And then, ultimately, hey, this guy, to me, in my opinion, like he's got exactly what you want, right, in a quarterback position and kind of how the modern game should be played, right, and what he's capable of doing. And that's where I think it just like it makes a ton of sense, right, for this team to just, hey, trust it. Get the guy now. You don't have to worry about it. There is no pressure on him to play right away. But if he does have to, he's more than capable, I think, of playing up to that level for this football team.
Yeah, I do too. I have no doubt. Look, I've said it from the word go, like you. I was sitting in a hotel room trying to find a way home from doing a college game, and I'm watching them play, and he's playing. I go, oh my gosh, he is just crushing the ball.
Yeah.
Every throw was ripped in there, and it wasn't like to wide open people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I good for him. It's been rough. And Alabama basically told him, look, you got to move on. We don't want you back next year. Because I guess they got a young quarterback. They got to get him in there and this and that. And even good quarterbacks now get pushed out of these programs because of somebody behind them, and they don't want him to leave. So you can move forward and, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, and that's okay. Like Alabama didn't even know what they had the whole season anyway. So that just kind of shows you just like how silly they are. Right. And the other thing is too, is that like, hey, Miami was going to pay Ty Simpson $6 million to go be their quarterback this past year. Right. So, and last time I checked, Miami's actually pretty good at identifying players that are available in the portal, right. With how they've done. So I would say that if Miami gave him the seal of approval, that says a lot too. But, that being said, watching the film, knowing the player, the scheme, the fit, all that, man, I like this pick a lot. I can only see that the one reservation is the fact that their next pick is the 29th pick in the second round. And maybe just the needs of trying to fill in something that can make an impact right this second. But, hey, Matt Stafford, something happens early on in the season.
Yeah.
This is why you do those things. This is why you get insurance policies and all that, right, for key positions. Well, and do think that the skill set is going to translate very well to the NFL level.
I'm kind of happy for him because I know the circumstances he played in college and what everybody's saying and all this stuff and all that. He's definitely going to a better offense with the Rams than he had down in Alabama.
Right.
So and the offense really fits him, like I've said 2 times. So it's now Matt Stafford, instead of playing through, I will admit he's as tough as hell and he'll play through anything.
Agree.
But there comes a certain time in life, he's secure.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you can take a week off and feel good. Oh, I feel better. The team can still win the game because our quarterback is capable. So I would think that has a little something that has to make the Rams feel better about it. And of course, it surely makes Ty Simpson feel great. But yeah, that was great for the Jets. I think getting David Bailey.
I think ultimately too they go with David Bailey because, and this is something that Christopher actually brought up like during the telecast, and when he said, I was like, yep, that's exactly what I was thinking, and probably what the Jets were thinking too. When you're comparing David Bailey and Arvell Reese, right? If that was maybe the discussion between the New York Jets facility, they went with the guy that I think is like the pure talented, just like this is what he does. He rushes the passer. That's it. Make it simple. We're going to get the best guy that's available at that job responsibility. That's what we want to do to fill the needs for our football team. And I think they accomplished that with David Bailey, probably the safest pick for them at that position. And now you really add, right? Of course, just tremendous speed on the outside for your defense. Remember, they traded for Tavondre Sweat. So they got him, Harrison Phillips in the middle there, and Will McDonald on the outside as well with Joseph Asai, who they signed this offseason. So, now with David Bailey, you do add that possibility of a 7-8-man rotation, right, among your defensive front, and having speed and power is a great mixture with that group moving forward.
Yeah. I think you made something really there. You got to
with Tamario Davis, one of your favorite free agent signings for the New York Jets this offseason.
Yeah, because he's that guy. He's going to be the emotional leader.
Yeah,
and not just game day. You know him, Matt. You know him well. We both do.
Yeah,
he's going to be the emotional leader every day.
Right,
in the locker room and the meetings, and he might not be. He's not the player that he was when he first got in the league athletically. But come on, when you play that position, a lot of it is recognition, knowing a lot, and able to adjust whatever. He's going to be great at that.
Well, when he came into the league, he was a little bit more of just like he was a little bit of like an Arvell Reese type, where like his speed and athleticism was so good you couldn't deny it. You had to get him. You had to pick him. Right. That's what they got. As he's developed, like you were mentioning for Arvell Reese, got bigger, stronger, grew into being a man. Yeah. And now he is more of that old school middle backer with the high football IQ, great leadership and toughness and the intangibles, right, to kind of be that complete football player for them in the middle. So that's what's really exciting too. And that's like for Giants fans, that's what we hope to see from Arvell Reese, right, in his future, that type of a development as far as a football player and a leader. But yeah, I think that's where just like you help a veteran linebacker right there by getting another great edge rusher, right, to go along with the rest of the D-line that they have. So I think the Jets really did a good job of again, like the Giants, making their front seven really a huge anchor to what this team is doing moving forward.
Well, I just think the Jets, it's a little different than the Giants. And I know neither one had a great year last year, but when I kind of looked at the Jets, I said, well, the Giants definitely had a better year, I think, than the Jets. And, so taking a guy that's already polished just erases one more thing so they can keep moving on and not to worry, oh my God, in practice, he's just not doing it and all that stuff, you never know. Mm-hmm. But what'd you think about the Jets' second pick?
Man, so this is where I really get excited, right? Because just as far as like, man, Frank Reich, I mean, happy birthday, dog. I mean, tell me, like, what's not to like about where they went going forward with Kenyan Sadiq now and Omar Cooper Jr., right, as the next two picks for them in the first round. I think Omar Cooper, to me, I valued him higher than Carnell Tate in my own little personal rankings as far as that position goes. I think Jordan Tyson was the best overall receiver in this year's draft class. He goes to New Orleans Saints. I think that's going to be a home run for Tyler Shuck and for Kellen Moore. But overall, Kenyan Sadiq, I mean, his ability to just do a little of everything. Yeah. I think what I see with Kenyan Sadiq, the more that I watch his highlights and the way that Oregon used him, but I think what his potential is for this New York Jets offense, it can be almost like a role like a Deebo Samuel type, right? Where it's like he's got that suddenness. You can put him in certain plays. He doesn't really identify maybe with one position, but it's like he's dense, he's strong, he can press and run great routes vertically. He can do all the good stuff underneath, and just overall a great athlete, right? So I think for the Jets, just adding a great athlete in that slot position with a veteran quarterback, Kenyan Sadiq, is definitely going to be a very impactful player for this offense very, very fast.
Hey, man, Frank Reich didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
He wanted to go out and run around the building a couple of times and do some jumping jacks because that's what it came through.
Yeah.
But a really good tight end. So we know what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with Frank Reich, Bill Musgrave's behind him there, coaching
Yep.
too. But it's not that they're trying to be old school. They're just kind of trying to make it a rounded football team. They're not going to rely on we're going to throw the ball 42 times a game. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to pace the game with Frank Reich there. And Aaron Glenn is going to be different too. But getting that tight end just ties a little more of it together. That now they get the tight end, the running back situation's okay. The offensive line it's okay. But the tight end, when you run the football, becomes to me the most valuable pass catcher out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Sadiq is Mark Bavaro, but it's the first thing I thought about when I watched him.
Really?
Yeah, gosh, just a little bit of maybe not the fastest guy, but fast, very what's the word for it? Could change a direction very well.
Yeah, very sudden. Yeah.
And he catches the ball with ease.
Yeah. And makes a lot of great catches too, while knowing that contact is on its way or embracing contact and still making the catch, So I think that's really awesome for them. And I don't really see him as like a true tight end for them. I see him more of like an F back, right? Which is essentially like the second tight end in the offense.
Right.
But now it's like you have Mason Taylor, you have Jeremy Rucker, right? You have Kenyan Sadiq. So now the ability to throw 3 tight ends out there at one time, but then to line up Kenyan Sadiq in the slot or on the outside, you're going to get great coverage indicators for quarterbacks to know, hey, is it man? Is it zone? If it is zone coverage, I can work this concept as man. Hey, I'm working Kenyan Sadiq on the backside here, one-on-one against the linebacker. It's like that's where I think creatively for Frank Reich, this is awesome. And that's why I also like the Omar Cooper pick too, because he's not necessarily an X or a Z. He's just a great, well-rounded football player across the board. Runs clean, crisp routes, right? Great at running over the middle. Great at contested catches. Reliable. And a tough blocker, too. And a guy that comes from, and literally, honestly, for Sadiq and for Omar Cooper, they come from 2 programs that have probably 2 of the, craziest college coaches out there in Dan Lanning and Curt Cignetti, right? So we're very aware that they can handle pressure within their own franchises with those 2 guys.
Yeah. Hey, look, isn't that interesting you say that? You'd like to have the guys you get. You'd like to think you can coach them hard and it's not going to hurt their feelings or all that stuff.
Right.
So I think you're right. I know with Curt Cignetti that Dan Lanning I look at, I don't know if I see the same, but hey, look, he's very successful, and you don't become as successful as a coach in college football and unless you do have some of that in you as a head coach.
Yeah.
But you can put the hammer down when you need to.
Right.
And so that's really good. But, the Jets run the football, offensive. Now we got 3 tight ends and all young.
Yeah.
So really interesting. It's really going to be fun. I can't wait to maybe, I don't know. I hate that I'm not changing the subject. Just say this. Do you think the Jets will take a quarterback in the second round tonight? Is that possible?
I mean, I think it's possible. But again, with just the amount of quality players that are still available, right? I just don't know if that makes sense to go for a quarterback now. I think a lot of these QBs are still going to be around in 3 and 4, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And I honestly think that the 3rd best quarterback, in my opinion, who is Carson Beck, like, I think he's still going to be there late in the 3rd round, right? Potentially, with just kind of how this draft is playing out and just the run of players that we've seen here so far. We still haven't even got through the cornerback group, which is a pretty good group. We still haven't even started the run of tight ends, which is another really good group. The run of linebackers, haven't seen many linebackers come off the board yet. That's another group that I think is a little bit deeper than people are giving credit for. So the QBs, I think, will be there. And for the Jets, I think, they'll still have an ability in the 4th round to get a quality quarterback, I think, with their 3rd pick in the 4th round there, and then the 40th pick in the 4th round. But
wow, that's pushing them back a lot. And
it is, but I do think that it's possible that they're still there. I do.
Yeah. Oh, there's going to be a group there that you'll be okay taking.
Yeah.
But is it actually the one you want?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. That's where like we'll see if maybe a team like the Cardinals kind of pop into the mix. Maybe some others that we're not really well aware of that are a little bit more eager to get a quarterback and add depth to it. So that's going to be interesting. But for the Jets, man, I don't know. With that 12th pick in the second round, man, doubled up on offense late in the first round.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like, is it going to be another one of these edge rushers? Is it going to be another one of these linebackers, or is Aaron Glenn going to go get, one of these corners that's still available? Is that where someone like who would be a good example? I feel like there, right? As far as for him personally, man, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo, the safety, would be curious to see if they kind of look that way. Of course, McCoy, Terrell. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting where they can go with this. And hey, who knows? Maybe they go with Zachariah Branch, the speedy slot guy out of Georgia, because he's a special teams guy. Yeah. Who knows, right?
Yeah, he returned some touchdowns, I think, this year. It's been a while since I looked at his profile.
Yeah.
But, man, I didn't like him watching him. I loved him. I mean, he caught my attention.
Yeah.
As that guy. In other words, Mekhi Lemon goes, whatever. But I went, yeah, I'm not sure. Right. I'm not sure he might be better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he would. I would think he would go off the board pretty quick tonight. I really do.
And I would say that it's safe to say that we could probably see close to about another 30 picks before we see the next quarterback come off the board.
Right.
That's, as far as just like where they're ranking in power rankings. That's just my opinion at the moment. We'll see how it plays out. But big guy, let's transition now to the other wow moment of the first round, and we'll close out with this today.
Okay, let me give you one let's do this one really fast.
Go ahead.
The third pick of the draft. Just a quick thought. What did you think?
Man, I like it. I don't buy into all the other things that people are saying as far as like the value of the position at that and all this. And listen, you can't say that a team took a bad player by taking at what everyone said a few weeks ago was the best player in the draft.
Best player in the draft.
So, I find it funny that like, he's the best player in the draft. No one could go wrong picking him. Cardinals pick him. Not sure why they did that. What a waste of his time and his energy and this. And like, I don't know. Like you mentioned earlier a week ago, nothing can inject more energy into a team than seeing Jeremiah Love for a 70-yard touchdown, third play of the game. So that's where I feel like really exciting for everyone on that offense to get Jeremiah Love.
I feel pretty good about this. The fact that I'm not going to name names, but when they came on TV, they basically recited exactly what we said. Oh, they got the two receivers, they got the tight end, and and the fan base. And I went, okay, I've heard that before somewhere. So, I liked it. I did. Arizona Cardinals, come on. Get back on the map of professional football.
Yeah.
And, I forgot who said it. And one of the people on TV, I agree. Hey, they're the least covered team in the league.
Yeah.
They play and it goes to their market and the market they're playing, and that's it a lot. It's really
right.
So, and Jeremiah Love, we said it, just gets the fans going. The front office has to feel really good about it. The players are going to love it once they see him on the field. They're going to go, oh my God, he's better than we thought.
Yeah.
So, here we go. Best available quarterbacks: Nussmeier, Beck, Aller, Taylon Green, and Cole Payton. Wow. Cole Payton, like that.
But we'll see how the rest of the draft plays out. Big guy, I think that's all we got for today. It was a good review for the Jets, for the Giants, of course. Our team, go Big Blue, let's go. And for Ty Simpson, right, which was one of the bigger news. And congratulations to Fernando Mendoza being the first overall pick and not being discussed for more than 10 minutes in the entire event of the first round. So that just shows you how damn good he was and how much he earned that spot of being number one. So the eyeballs will be on him sooner rather than later once we kind of actually get back to the play and him actually getting on the field, probably a little bit sooner than some of us imagine. But big guy, thank you so much for today. Thank you to Lindsay, the Believe family as well. This is Sims Complete on the Believe Sport Network, brought to you by FanDuel, and we'll be back next time. See you.